Hi, everyone. So it's been a while since I've done anything on here. I've been very busy with school, actually, and getting jump start on next things I want to be doing. But I wanted to talk to you for a second, and I didn't have time to really get this space put together. I didn't put myself together. I didn't even prepare something I wanted to say, but I have just heard some really bad, well, sad news, and I don't think I wanted to go more than a day or two without remarking on it. So I just found out through um, some people I care about that Dr. Elaine Ingham uh, has passed away in the last 2 days. I found out about it today. I believe it happened within the last couple of days. It looks like there's a notice on the 18th or 19th on the website of the business and organization that she started, Soil Food Web. I knew that she had retired, and there'd been some celebration around that, and I didn't know that she was ill. I actually was planning on reaching out to Elaine, Dr. Ingham, when I moved down here to Corvallis, Oregon, because I'm here temporarily for school. The only other time I've ever been to Corvallis before moving here, actually, other than like random quick drive-throughs, was to spend a week with her. And I really wanted the opportunity to be able to speak with her again now that I was here in Corvallis. I was really looking forward to maybe spending some time with her. It's been a number of years since we chatted. But there was a period of time where we were talking very regularly, and I can't even begin to tell you the degree of impact that this woman had on my life. And so I feel like it's important to talk about on one level, just to note. And then this has to be pretty brief. I have some work I have to get done. And then when I have some time, maybe I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that I've learned from having worked with her and learned from her, and some of the things I learned maybe that she doesn't teach, but that I learned because of tools that she gave me to learn. So for those of you who don't know, Dr. A was a soil scientist who really focused heavily on soil food web science. And everything I'm saying is coming from recollections from conversations. And so anything I get wrong is my misunderstanding. Because, you talk to people, you get to know them, and you get impressions and you think things. So I just want to make sure that like any details I say that are incorrect, they're my mistake. I got to know Elaine before she really had launched the big effort of like an education program that she was doing. She was lecturing, she was giving consultations, but she hadn't yet launched her like education program. And I had a few years before that decided that I wanted to understand more about soil processes in general, for climate reasons, for personal reasons. Understanding microbiology, understanding like kind of those processes was really important. And I ended up on a journey to learn about all of that. I started by visiting a small farm in the middle of Portland, Oregon, this place that had been converted from lots into one of the fundamental best gardens I've ever experienced. And at that place, the founders of that garden were these geniuses who were doing soil food web work. They were making compost tea, they were doing microscopy and microbiology, and they were doing it out of their garage, and they were growing incredible food. And they had this entirely different approach for thinking about disease, about plants, about fertility in the soil, and not worrying as much about the chemistry, but more about the conditions that allow biology to manage chemistry. And I learned from them first, learning how to do a little bit of soil microscopy, learning how to build compost tea that was more guaranteed to be stable, actively aerated compost tea, AACT. And also got to work on a garden that was like focused on that idea that disease was not a problem. It was something to be learned from, that there were ways of engineering the system so that disease could be part of a larger microbial community, the ways that compost operates, the reasons why we don't need to work as much on chemical modification of pH, because we can work with other kinds of buffers that happen through living processes. and also some of the ways that you sort of like run through the chain of how exudates from plants get transformed into labor processes in parent material, and how that all of that was there. So that journey of like trying to figure that stuff out, they were like, well, you should learn from who we learned from. You should talk to Elaine. And um, I reached out to her. She had been a university professor at Oregon State. And there's a lot of controversy around her time there. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that she defended a graduate student who had figured out some stuff that was counters to some of the dominant eugenics that is now kind of present in our world. And had done experimental science that had to show results that brought into question some of the assumptions of some of the people who are apologists for that, or who use different names for it. And she stood her ground on defending her advisee. She had worked so hard to defend the honor and integrity of a young person who had done good science. And when that fell on deaf ears, when the structure and system of academia perpetuated dogma rather than examine assumptions, especially when there was funding involved, they gave her no choice, and she had to exit and take her own way in life. And there's not a lot of people who are like really well trained in academia who get to find a way to keep their values. You know, a lot of people go into business to make a profit, and she didn't do that. She went into service with her work. So I reached out to her and said I wanted to learn about this stuff, and she said, "I'll teach you. Come down to Corvallis. I do have a rate that I'm teaching students, but I'll give you a huge discount on that." It was nothing. It was nothing. It was like a few bucks, seriously. And, you know, if you can find a place to stay, I'll drive you down to from Portland to Corvallis, because I'm going to be up there for a conference. You can come every day into my kitchen. We'll set up a microscope. We'll do soil samples. And while I clean my house, you can do soil microscopy, and I will, check in on you while I'm doing like meetings and stuff. I was like, great. So we show up at the conference center that's happening. She's done speaking to people. She drives me to Corvallis, checks me in with my friend who's down here, and I got to spend every day with her for a week in a really like intense, rigorous, and also casual setting simultaneously. And got to know her quickly as a person because she's very open. And we looked sample after sample after sample, and she honed my attention very quickly to like what I was looking at, and taught me how to do counts, and verified those counts with her own observations, and just calibrated me like a tool fast. I haven't done a lot of soil microscopy in the last like decade. It's been that long since I met with her, but there was a period of time where I was doing a ton of it, and being able to do a qualitative analysis of the microbial communities of soil to understand what the nutrient pathways are. And then once you understand that process, being able to like look at the world differently and say, okay, we've wiped out of topsoil, and now we're throwing chemistry, all these fertilizer salts, all of these different approaches onto that. And it's just perpetuating the problem, transforming the parent material in the wrong direction again and again, and turning the planet into basically a hydroponic system where we're leaking 80% of the nutrients that we're putting on the soil through fossil fuel engineering processes of making those nutrients. And we're popping and killing all these microbes. And the microbes themselves could colonize, could transform the parent material and turn it into topsoil if given the right conditions. And there are conditions that must be met in order for the proper succession of species and organisms and types and classes to form their proper organization and relationship. Once you understand that, you can observe it. And once you get that, you can also think about plant relationships with that. And you can use plant indicators to start to represent soil processes. And you can start understanding and asking questions that are testable hypotheses, and start thinking through the dynamics of a landscape through the macro and micro lenses. she made linkages between planetary systems and regional systems and local systems and tiny little windows of a few particles around each other have some sort of like relationship, scale invariance. And the work that she and her husband had done to sort of like verify some of this stuff, and the work that that little window of time when there was some funding for ecology research in soils, not just ag research. And we're kind of back in that time a little bit again, and there's a lot of really amazing soil data. So props to the people out there who are managing to do work like what she was doing, and now within academia are doing it. She was ahead of her time. And then she chose to work with people who were farmers, people who were directly interacting and impacting the land in adverse ways, but weren't wanting to. And she taught them how to think in ways that were extraordinarily counter to maximization and processes of simplification of environments for rapid increase of extraction. That relationship between chemistry and biology. And I've met people over the years who have taken her classes, and she standardized them. They became sort of a set thing. And I can see how like the proto version of that was how she taught me. But then later on, when I was in school for other reasons, I turned to her and said, hey, I want to be doing some systems modeling. Can you help me do some food web modeling for that? And she was like, yeah, I'll help you. She had career advice when I needed it. She had care. She wanted to know how I was doing. And yet I never, was able to really thank her at the level that I would have liked to have. And I give her a huge amount of credit for what she had brought into the world and the degree of knowledge and the like Promethean act of stealing fire that she did. And of course, she'll have followers, and there'll be people who have like simplified her lesson plan and will take something to an extreme. And I have no idea, the person and the myth kind of thing, right? But like I knew her as a person for a while at a really, really difficult time in my life and a really key moment in my intellectual, conceptual, ecological transformation. So I just want to honor that little bit of contact because I tend to come from the perspective that we are our actions, we are our relationships. And when someone has passed, we linger in all of the people. And it comes now to the people themselves who now singularly hold what was formerly shared memories to take responsibility for that part of the person that resides in them. So I didn't know her for years. I didn't know her deeply. But she treated me with so much respect and kindness and care without really knowing me very well, and treated me like a friend rather than a stranger. And her impact is on me, and it is inseparable from any impact I've had on others. And I'm sure that I am just one example among thousands, tens of thousands who are now carrying some piece of her. I understand that here in Corvallis there'll be some sort of memorial. It looks like it's in the to be determined future. I'm not in touch with the people here who are. I'm sure they don't need to be hearing from people right now. I'm sure they're dealing with that. I don't know whether it was an expected or unexpected process. I don't know how she sees the world, but like I also am going to think about her right now as she begins the biophysical journey of following the pathways that she used to map, compost, the transformation of organic matter through bacterial communities, through fungal communities, through the nematodes that eat and transform those, the bacterial feeders and the fungal feeders and the root feeders and the predatory nematodes, the amoebas and protozoa, micro and macro invertebrates, the insects, the earthworms, all the worms, all the different materials, the clay, the sand, the silt in that triangle, the organic matter, proteins, the carbs, sugars, the cake and cookie, she used to call them. One of the ways that she's transforming right now back into the soil food web. So I just want to take this moment and just give some honor to this woman, in honor to what she has done. She reached out to people of all types. There's some people who are, you know, on all sides of issues who have been touched by her and have been taught to think about things a little bit more interconnected, a little bit more precise, a little bit clearer. They've actually had to sit and look and hypothesize. She saved people so much money in terms of thinking through their fertilizer and watering and organic matter plans. And there were people who didn't understand her. I guess there always are. Whether that was people who stepped into her roles or followed the people who were doing soil food web work and replaced it back with normal extension style organic farming or organic fertilizers. The people who never fully understood like how one thinks about a compost pile and what its effect is on the larger system, or people who hear part of the message but don't hear the full message, who think that when you say that organisms control or are more important than chemistry, that somehow means that you're denying chemistry. She walked that line so well, with so much pride and so much ability and so much like shrewd capacity. And she's definitely one of those people in my life who I got to be in touch with for a little bit, and I am deeply in debt and deeply influenced by her. I don't know if there would be a build soil if I had not known Elaine Ingham, Dr. Elaine Ingham. And that's all I want to say right now. I hope everybody's doing well. There's a lot of stuff I want to do with you all. If I take anything from her, it's that time is short, and we are part of change, and we're part of taking the environment around us and transforming it, whether we like it or not. And we have a responsibility to do that in ways that bring back support and care to the things that support us. And soil can be built fast. We may have lost our organic matter. We have not lost our parent material. You can transform landscapes incredibly fast by creating the conditions for life. And life will do the rest if you understand it. So I'm sure I'll be reflecting more on this in the future. I'm sure that I will be allowing whatever seeds of her are in me to grow again as I wake up. And I hope that you are all doing so well, because we are working together to build the world that works for all. And we build pyramids and skyscrapers and high trophic web systems with higher and higher, more and more embedded energy. We are not transforming the capacity of the planet to be resilient. And that will only happen if we turn around and take care of the foundation of life itself and the processes of recycling, of care, of decomposition, of rejuvenation, of storage and complexity. The primary one of the two top ecosystems broadly is there's all this stuff that we like as multicellular organisms, but we're just sort of like roaming around in this massive sea of an interconnected ancient food web that works with oxygen, that works in this kind of environment. So I hope everyone is taking care of themselves and their loved ones, and we are going to build soil together. All right. Good night.